When you first open FL Studio, this is what you're going to see. To the left here, we have the browser. This is where you can find all of your samples in your packs folder when you put them in there. Up top here, we have pattern and song mode. Pattern mode would be, you have pattern 1 here, and this is your pattern. It would only play what is in this pattern. If you switch to song mode, it'll play from the playlist view here. You have play and pause, stop and record. You have your tempo, and as I said, you have patterns. You just click and drag these one way or the other. One other useful thing here is the metronome. You can change it from a hi-hat, a tick, or a beep. These buttons up here, we have to view the playlist, step sequencer, to view piano roll, which would be for one of these sounds if you want to individually input notes. To view and unview the browser and the mixer. And these buttons up here, we have draw you can draw in one pattern at a time. Paint, you can click and drag to draw many in one line at a time. Delete, mute, slip. You can slice a pattern in half or any other way that you want. Select, zoom, and playback. Now if you wanted to make any of these views bigger, like the playlist, this button up here in the right corner, if you click and drag it up or down, it'll increase the size. And if you wanted to expand them horizontally, you can put your mouse up here where the numbers are and drag your mouse wheel either direction. Alright, now I'm just going to show you how to make a simple song. Let me just load some samples real quick. Alright, I uploaded some samples to the step sequencer, and all you have to do that is click and drag them onto the step sequencer. I dropped the tempo to about 81, and I want this pattern to be 8 beats, so up in the upper left here is where you change that. You just click and drag. It can go all the way up to 64, but it'll only show up until 16. Each one of these little notes here is a 16th note. As you can see, they're different colored for every time you hit a new beat. So I'm just going to make it 8, and I'm going to draw out a quick pattern here. Let me just do that. And if you want to input these very easily for a hi-hat or something, if you right click, you can select to fill each 2 steps, each 4 steps, or each 8 steps. So I'm going to go every 2. And these little knobs to the left of the samples here, the first one is to mute or solo. Then you have channel panning and channel volume. So let's go ahead and play this real quick, see how it sounds. And you have to make sure you're in pattern mode. Alright, sounds pretty good. This here is a low bass sound. And when you click on a sample, it'll bring up this channel settings window where you've got your sample properties, instrument properties, miscellaneous properties, and special tools and functions. And one thing I'll say, if you have like an 808 bass or something and it drags on longer than you want to, so I'm going to input these real quick to follow the kick drum, and I'll play it. You can see, since the note is drawn out like that, every time it hits, it's playing it over and over and overlapping. So one thing you can do is put up the crossfade loop, and it'll only play as long as the note is held. But I'm going to change the notes up a bit, and if you saw what I did there, I opened up the piano roll, and it was a little bit too big for the window, so I just held down Control and right clicked, and it'll bring it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and change this pattern up a little bit. And there's a couple shortcuts if you want to move every note down or up. You can hold Shift and hit any one of the arrow keys. So Shift down will bring them all down, Shift up, or you can move them over. If you wanted to move them a whole octave at a time, it's Control and arrow key. And down here you have the volume for each note, and if you right click on the side here, you can change the properties. You can pan each note individually, change the release, and so on. I'm going to keep it at velocity and keep those there. And now I'm going to go ahead and input a instrument. I'm going to go with a piano, and if you want to do that, you just right click on one of these samples and go down to Insert, and it'll bring up all of the plugins you have. Now some of these came standard with FL Studio, but I downloaded a couple of them as well. I'm going to go ahead and open up Nexus and go down to pianos, and let's see here. And I have a MIDI keyboard here, so that's how I'm playing these notes. But I'm going to just go ahead and mess around real quick and find out a chord. I'm going to do that off screen. Alright, so I went ahead and made a little pattern here. Here's how it sounds. Doesn't sound the best, but we're just going to go with it. And I'm going to go ahead and manually input some bass notes underneath. So that's good. That's good right there. Alright, I went ahead and loaded Philharmonic, and I selected some staccato strings, and I'm going to go ahead and just record this in to show you. If you have a MIDI keyboard or something, if you hit this record button and then you want to record into everything, and then once you hit play, it'll count down based on how many beats you have in this pattern here. So I have 8, so it'll count down 8 beats, and then I can play along with the song. So here we go. And you want to deselect record, and if you have notes like this and you want to easily open up the piano roll, you can just right click on this view here. And as you can see, they're a little sloppy, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that up real quick. Alright, I went ahead and clean that up a little bit. And if your instruments are a little too loud, again, you have this channel volume here. Gonna turn the piano down a little bit. Now, if you wanted to actually build out a song, you wouldn't necessarily put all of these instruments on one pattern. You'd split it up, and you can see you can put them on different patterns. And then if you go into playlist view, you can input the patterns here and build them out. Since I have nothing in pattern 2, it's going to be short, but that's how you do that. And that should do it. That's some of the basics of FL Studio and how to make a simple song.